Hey, longtime listeners, it's your old buddy Shades here, and I want to tell you about the brand new Geeking Out with Shades and Sketch Kids Club for adults who are basically still kids at heart. Okay, let me tell you about this. Do you remember tuning in every Saturday morning to your local Fox or WNAC affiliate? Mine was Fox 64. And I tuned in every Saturday morning with glee. Saturday morning cartoons were a source of existential joy for me. And they upped their game with the WNAC 64 Kids Club. I remember mailing in, getting my welcome kit. I got an incredibly well-made gold-plated holographic membership card that's more robust than some of my current adult credit cards. I still have it. Got a decoder ring. Didn't decode anything. Trading cards for my favorite cartoons, and monthly mailers that dovetailed with the branded interactive content that aired during the commercial breaks. Genius. So after 2 years, we thought it was about time to create that experience for our very own and start our Geeking Out Kids Club. We've got a whole bunch of swag to share with you when you support the show over at www.patreon.com/shadeandsketch. At this level, a 3-month commitment will mail you your very own Geeking Out Kids Club member pack. Guys, you're going to get a unique 8x11 poster. You're going to get trading cards. You're going to get a membership card. And quite frankly, Sketch really outdid himself on the design for this one. Think Blockbuster meets Sequest. So head on over to patreon.com/shadeandsketch. Guys, we're a fan-supported show, and you're helping us keep the lights on in the GOCO, and we want to go the extra mile for you. So one more time, that's patreon.com/shadeandsketch. Head on over and get your very own Geeking Out Kids Club member pack today. Guys, don't wait too long because supplies are limited.
Oh, hello, Puddin'. I'm Sketch.
And I'm Shades.
And this is
Geeking Out with Shades and Sketch.
Welcome back, longtime listeners. Thanks for joining us again. Every time you join us, our GOCO is in a different spot of the Geeking Out of the Geeking Out multiverse. Shades, not the swankiest place we've been.
No, but in these COVID times, one of the more resourceful.
Yeah. And you know what? We've been in a sewer more times than I'd like to admit.
That's true.
And this is a step up.
This is a step up.
So Shades, where are we this week?
We are in the abandoned Gotham City Mall.
Yeah.
Just hanging out.
We're taking a hit before COVID.
Yes.
So it's been vacant for a while.
It has.
And we're just we're huddled around the empty fountain in the middle.
And an incinerator in the basement. Still working.
That's all you need in Gotham these days.
It is.
And no. Wait, there's some rummaging going on in that store over there.
Security gate. Let me just raise the bar here. Oh my goodness. We've been joined by a very special guest.
A friend of the pod.
Longtime friend of the pod. You have heard her voice, actor, comedian, voiceover artist extraordinaire, 2019 Sovus Award winner for outstanding animation and body of work, and for bringing life to Halo and Young Justice Outsiders. You've heard her in Borderlands, Big Hero 6. We are, of course, talking about friend of the pod, Zehra Fazal.
Hey, I'm looking for the Cinnabon. I thought it would be in here.
Those things last forever, so it's...
yeah, or like good orange Julius.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's like Dippin' Dots somewhere, maybe. I think that lasts like... Those will be around after cockroaches are extinct.
Those are space age.
Welcome back.
Hey, guys. I'm so excited to be here with you today in this mall.
Thank you so much for joining us in this mall.
Oh, it's fabulous.
What fantastic timing, because if we are in the old abandoned Gotham City Mall, that must mean we're talking about Harley Quinn.
The Cupid of crime, the maiden of mischief.
Dr. Harleen Quinzel.
Yes, please, doctor. And recently we've had a couple of Harley Quinn properties that we got to take in. So we're going to be talking today about the Harley Quinn animated series, and Shay, do you want to do the full official title of the movie?
Birds of Prey and or the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So if we're talking Harley Quinn this week, do we have a theme song?
I believe we do, Sketch. Zehra, take it away.
But square cut or pear shaped, these rocks don't lose their shape. Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Perfect.
I mean, we always say perfect.
Wow.
In however many episodes, I think this is the first time it actually means perfect. That was
so sweet. Can I just say, I know I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, but how excited am I that Ewan McGregor has been in 2 movies that have Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend scenes? I think that's a record in Hollywood,
think it
to
is.
be honest.
The man can do no wrong. He knows how to pick them.
He really does.
I know I'm also jumping the gun, but was that sequence in Birds of Prey like a surreal like Moulin Rouge?
It felt that
was
way.
That what that was?
I don't know if it was like a specific tribute to Baz Luhrmann and Moulin Rouge, but it's certainly, the dreaminess of it, the kind of the singularity of it really did feel Luhrmann-esque.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know I'm jumping way ahead, but Ely's geeked out hard when we were watching that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But so guys, I'm so excited for this episode. Harley Quinn has kind of emerged as the force of the DC universe, and we're getting lots of cool things from her. This week, we're talking in particular Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn, the animated series. So, of course, spoiler for those properties, longtime listeners. If you haven't caught up on those 2 things yet, you might want to push the pause button.
And potentially anything that Harley Quinn's ever been in. Although we have talked Harley Quinn at length when we did Batman and Harley Quinn.
And Harley Quinn, yes. So
possibly spoilers to that episode of Geeking Out.
Yeah. Very meta. Should we start with our personal histories of Harley Quinn? I mean, do we need a Harley Quinn history? Did we already do that?
Well,
sketch?
we did that in Batman and Harley Quinn. When we did that, we went pretty in depth with our personal histories with Harley. But why doesn't Zehra tell us a little bit about her history with the character of Harley Quinn?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to. So I guess I first became aware of Harley Quinn, much like many of us, through the Batman animated series in the 90s. And she was voiced by Tara Strong, who to me is kind of like the Harley Quinn in my mind. I just remember being so delighted whenever there'd be an episode featuring Harley on. And she was just such a character,
Oh, yeah.
if that makes sense. She was just so unique and like a shot of energy in Gotham, the Gothamverse, which can get very dark and kind of very, we're all serious. We're serious heroes. We're serious villains. And then you have Harley Quinn. And I also just realized, because I was looking up a little bit about the character's history last night, her first comic appearance was only in 1993.
Yeah.
So like in relatively short amount of time, she has come to dominate the Batverse and, like you said, has become this force of the DC universe that I think she's an amazingly timely anti-heroine. And so I think that's probably why she became so popular. What else about my history with Harley Quinn? A good friend of mine who I met through the Gargoyles fandom years ago was actually a prolific writer in the Harley Quinn / Poison Ivy fan fiction community.
Wow.
And so that was another kind of entree to the Harley Quinn world.
Very cool.
And so I kind of got this idea like, oh yeah, she and Poison Ivy have this dynamic. And so that's something that I'm excited to see the animated series now on DC Universe kind of pick up the baton and continue with exploring their relationship.
Right, definitely. Yeah, and just, you mentioned Tara Strong voicing Harley Quinn, and like so many people have put their mark on the Harley voice now.
Yeah.
Zehra, have you spent any time in the Harley comics at all in any of her series?
No, I have not. I have not read any Harley comics. Do you got any you recommend?
Well, I was just going to say that, just to backtrack, just to give a little bit of our history. We've talked about it. The rebirth era of DC Universe, which we're still kind of in, I guess, was Amanda Conner and Jimmy.
That's right. Palmiotti.
Palmiotti. Thank you very much for that save.
I love Amanda Conner.
Right.
That's right. I completely forgot that she worked on the Harley Quinn comic. Can I tell you an Amanda Conner story?
Oh, please. Yes.
When I was 11 or 12, my mom took me to the Wizard Comic Con in Chicago. And at that time, I was a big fan of the Gargoyles comics that Marvel was putting out. And Amanda Conner did the art for the Gargoyles comics. So at Wizard Comic Con, I saw that Amanda Conner was doing a panel. And so I went, and afterward, my mom and I went up to her, and I was like, I love your work on the Gargoyles comic books. And she was so nice and supportive. And I told her that I wanted to become an artist, and she was just so lovely and nice. I've been looking for an opportunity to find her at a convention now as an adult, to tell her, like, hey, I met you when I was a kid, and you were so nice to me. And that's always stuck with me.
That's so cool.
But every time I've gone to try to meet her, her line of fans has been so long that I have not had a chance.
Her line is so long, and your line is so long, and it's just you're just like looking over the masses.
Amanda, I love you.
That's
so phenomenal.
So cool.
She's a perfect match for Harley Quinn.
She is, and that's just what I wanted to just touch on their run on Harley Quinn. I think it was only the first 20 issues or so that they did together, but that is like the most Harley that I think I've ever experienced, and that's kind of emerged as like my favorite vehicle was their run on the series, because it did kind of, to me anyway, really establish her as finally like her own woman, and it wasn't she wasn't dependent on Poison Ivy or Joker or Batman. She had her own gang of Harleys and like a Deadpool-esque sidekick. Red Tool is his name. He's kind of like a mashup of Deadpool and Wolverine, and really as the vanguard of that series, and kind of being a leader in her own right, without making her a hero or a villain, just a person trying to get by in a like quote unquote batshit crazy world that is the DC universe. Because it can be dark, it can be silly, it can be slapstick, it can be brooding, it can be like YA, it can be everything and anything, and Harley is kind of allowed to ride that wave of wherever the DCEU goes. So I don't think I had talked about that in our previous episode sketch, and I just wanted to drop that and give that creative team props.
And I also think that since that episode, DC has done a lot of work on Harley too, like really pumping her up even more. Right. I personally love what they've done with her. I think they've made a lot of great decisions as far as the Harley character, like in which direction they're going to go. And having her be kind of like the DC's Deadpool-ish character, and this like, which side of the line between good and bad and sane and crazy is she actually walking on? Maybe it's both. Yeah. Maybe she's going back and forth. I don't know. She's just more dynamic than ever. And I've always been a Harley fan, and now I'm more a Harley fan than I've ever been.
Very cool.
Sweet.
Well, should we just get right to it and start with the Birds of Prey movie?
Sure.
Yes.
I have a little history and then the all-important internet scores.
Of course.
Because that's what we all really care about, right? So Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn gets its roots and origin way back in 2015, actually before the Suicide Squad movie came out. Margot Robbie pitched the idea to Warner Brothers, and the film was announced in 2016 with Christina Hodson hired as screenwriter. She also did the Bumblebee movie and is working on the Flashpoint movie right now.
Oh,
She was
cool.
hired as screenwriter. Kathy Yan was attached as director, and the cast was in place by the end of the year. Principal photography took place between January of 2019 and April of 2019, and it premiered in 2020 in Mexico City. The Birds of Prey, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but are traditionally a team headed by Barbara Gordon, either as Oracle or Batgirl, with the core members of the team rounded out by Black Canary 2, Dinah Lance, and Helena Bertinelli, the Huntress. And it has a kind of revolving door of side characters, of femme fatales and heroines of the DC universe. And that, I think, debuted in 96, I think, was the first issue of that book. But this is their first screen adaptation in either animation or live action film.
Wow.
Yeah. The all-important internet score, Birds of Prey, IMDb, gave it a 6.2. Side glance, IMDb.
Wow.
Rotten Tomatoes, this is a rare instance.
Okay.
The fan score and the critic score are dead even at a 78.
Wow.
You don't often see that.
Solid C plus.
Solid C plus. Google, 82% of Google reviewers loved this movie.
They're always the highest.
They are always the highest.
So positive on Google.
I will just come right out and say I flippin' loved this movie. I gave it a 98.
Wow, that's excellent.
I loved it.
That's an A plus.
It is. I loved this movie. To me, without getting too far into it, this was like watching an old school like Western, like War Wagon or Rio Bravo. And it was just so perfect. Like, we meet all of our characters. We learn everything we need to know about our characters. They go on this journey. It could lead to other things. It could be self-contained. I just absolutely loved this whole experience of going on this journey. I could have easily given it 100, but I thought that was not fair.
You're a professional.
Zehra, where would you place Birds of Prey?
Gosh, if I had to give it a number, here, let me talk about my feelings before I assign a number.
Sure.
I did not stop having fun during this movie.
Yes.
It was such a fun time. And I was like, it was eye candy too. Just the way it was shot, the way the action scenes were shot with the camera work. There was often like a 360. You could see every hit and every blow. And that was really exciting. And like you said, with the, you got to know each character, what their deal was before they all came together. And the whole kind of first 2 acts of the movie, I'm like, when are they going to get together? Ooh, when they get together, it's going to be so fun. And then it was so fun when they all got together. And I think the strongest point about this movie was its comedy and comedic timing. Yeah. It was played for laughs, especially Margot Robbie's performance as Harley Quinn. So funny. Margot Robbie is amazing. Like, I've always loved her work and everything she's done. And she was my favorite part of Suicide Squad. Yeah. So I was so excited to see her in this role, in this playing it for comedy and laughs. Yeah. However, I was also surprised when the story shifted to Black Canary's arc, Journey Smollett, who was in Full House, by the way. She was one of Michelle's friends.
Oh, was she really?
Like, where have I seen that name? Yeah. I thought she was amazing. And when we were kind of in her story in the setup, I forgot I was watching a Harley Quinn movie. Yes. I was like, oh, what's going on with these? What's going on with her? Gosh, this is interesting. This is fascinating. So yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I think it never got too serious for me to be genuinely worried. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for that reason, I'm kind of glad it didn't go that gritty. But for that reason, I would give it like an 89.
Very good.
That's solid.
I gotta preserve, the 11 extra points for. I don't know.
I love that. Sketch.
I'm right there up there with you, both you guys. I really enjoyed Birds of Prey. I was pumped for it to come out, and when it eventually did, I was seeing it right at the beginning of release, and then I rewatched it last night in preparation to talk about it again, and happy to report that it still stayed true to me. It still held up. It wasn't just that initial geek out. So I give it a 91. 91%.
Oh, nice.
Very
In the
nice.
90s.
Yeah, this was such a bizarre experience. The first time I saw the movie, I saw it in Marco Island in this like tiny theater with nobody else in it. And it was one of those theaters that like they serve you throughout the movie.
Oh,
And
sweet.
yeah, it was such a bizarre experience. I kind of dragged Elise to it, and then like she had such a great time and I had such a great time, and we both connected it to it in such a visceral way. And then when we rewatched it, I think we enjoyed it more the second time around because we noticed all of the nuances that we missed the first time around. And it was so smart. And like you said, it was just this fun ride. There was never a point in which we didn't have fun. And, all of the character development was just so damn good. And kind of just like Rosie Perez.
Oh my
God. Is a
God.
gift. Like,
Oh my God.
like,
Renee Montoya. Hot.
yes. Finally we get Renee Montoya. And like you
Yes.
said, when we shifted to different characters, I became so engrossed in their story that I forgot it was a Harley Quinn movie. And even Ewan McGregor's story for like Black Mask, when a character was on screen, I don't know how they did this or why I felt that, but I felt like I was watching their movie until the third act. And then it's just like a car crash where everything is just there and together and so organic. I think that's like my biggest, how organic it is. I just had this note from watching it. This was so much more of a Justice League movie than Justice League or Avengers.
100%.
And it was just right. The way they came together, their motivations, their stories, their humor, their like those who dislike each other, those who like each other. It was just so real and visceral.
Yeah, it was genuine. They had genuine relationships that developed throughout the movie. And it made sense why they ended up together at the end and of course then where they went from there.
Right.
Without spoiling everything.
Yeah. And I love also because it was all women, there was very much this sense of, hey, I got your back, girl. Like, don't worry, I'm looking out for you. And that was throughout the movie. There was none of the stereotypical cattiness or kind of comments about being a woman. It was just, hey, we're all looking out for each other. Yeah. There's, this guy's a dick, they're after us. We got to fight. And I had similar feelings watching this as I did to watching Wonder Woman, which was, it was the first time I had seen a female superhero in a female driven action movie that was filmed without the male gaze. Essentially, it was filmed from a place of strength. And you could tell very much that it was a female director and a female screenwriter because there was none of that. I think sometimes when something is, thankfully, I think we're moving out of this, but for a long time, there was a period where it's like, girl power. Yeah, we're women, girls. Yeah. And it's like the femininity and the femaleness is highlighted rather than, you don't need to highlight it. It's there. Just capture it. So I really enjoyed, like, as a woman watching it, I was like, yeah. It felt authentic to me.
Just to piggyback on what you're talking about, I love how we're just organically like raving about this movie because it's just so much fun. There's this moment where it's been widely talked about. It's not like I've noticed something here, but when Harley gives Black Canary a hair tie, that's so real and so like, and then Huntress, who is like the emotional intelligence of like a dry piece of toast, is like, I really like how you can kick so high in those tight pants. Because, like, yes, that is impressive. Like, and it's organic and it's real. It's not objectifying, but it's such a commentary on, like, one of the things that like Elise and I will often talk about is how, like, women's jeans don't have real pockets. Like, you can't put anything in them because it's more about, like, they're not utilitarian at all. Like women's clothing is rarely utilitarian. And that was such a real authentic comment for this person who is not feminine, but still a woman and still aware to, like, have a real connection and conversation with this other character because they've both experienced these things. Like, and Huntress does wear very utilitarian clothing. And like at one point she looks like she's wearing a trash bag because it just needs to be dark and, like, protective. And it's, you know, whatever that coat was, it was not about I'm the Huntress whose, like, costume has been totally impractical and just, like, eye candy made to appeal to the male audience in comics at various points in her career. And
can I just tell you, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress in this movie is like every gay girl's wet dream. Like, she is so hot. When she rides up on the motorcycle, it's like, hey, hop on. It's like, oh. So she was, I think crafted for a different type of gaze for sure.
You know, in that last fight scene in like the fun house, especially when they all come together on that like swirling hand carousel thing. To piggyback again off what Zehra said, where they do have each other's backs. And I'm trying to think of another action sequence in a superhero movie recently where it's not just the heroes doing their signature move against the bad guy. Right. It's the it's taking care of everybody else, getting Cassandra Cain out of the way, giving Black Canary the hair tie. Like, everyone at some point in that fight steps up for somebody else.
Yep.
And I'm honestly trying to think of another team coming together movie that does that, and I can't. I'm coming up blank.
Yeah,
totally. It's like, even the Avengers, as much as I love the MCU, the first Avengers movie is a lot of dick swinging. It's
it is.
It's like they had to sort out their differences in a non-organic way or a less organic way. Well, because they had all these movies to build them up, I understand why they kind of hit the ground rolling in Avengers. But yeah, having each other's back and supportive, absolutely.
I totally agree with that. And I really can't think of another, particularly the fight sequence. I can't. The closest thing I came to with, like, the feeling I got from this movie was the first Iron Man movie. And those characters did all have each other's back, in a non-physical way. Mm-hmm. But it's just something that's missing from movies. Like, the way movies are constructed now, we're just, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. They don't like this group, they don't like this group. Okay, fight. And this was so organic and real. They just, if you have an ounce of decency in you, you're going to protect a kid. Like, regardless of what else has happened, whether, like, Harley Quinn is, like, a psychotic, like, villain, or if you're down and gritty cop, or you're just a straight up stone cold killer, like, you're going to protect a kid. I loved that. We kind of, like, glanced over it, and then maybe we can get some, like, structured raves, just a couple, since we're just, like, organically raving about this movie. This is my favorite. This is my favorite part of the podcast, Zehra. Sketch, how much do you think this movie cost?
Oh God!
And Zehra, feel free to play along.
Gosh, I'm so bad at guessing budgets.
That's me. Longtime listeners think it's just a trope, and then I'm doing it as an act. Nope. I have no idea. I will say $100 million.
Oh, that's a great guess, Sketch. Zehra, do you want to wager a bet?
Oh,
you can also just say higher or lower.
$100 million and $1.
Oh, Price is Right rules. Sketch, I'm going to give it to you $90 million.
That's
nice.
One of the closest guesses I've ever made.
Wow.
It is. That is, I think, the closest. Now, how much do we think it grossed in total?
It's so hard because I feel like it came out just when things were getting real with Rona.
Yeah.
And so like we had intended to go see it in the theater, but then kind of missed the window.
I do think it was affected. And when I was looking at it, people were saying that was not the case, but I really do think its run got cut short.
It came out in February? Yeah. Is that when it came out?
It did.
And February movies in general, too.
It came out.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog opened against it.
Okay.
Oh God, I hope
Day.
Birds of Prey came out on top.
I will say 150 million.
Oh. Zehra?
I'll say 200.
Hey, good guess. It made $201.9 million.
That's
wow,
a great
just domestic
guess.
Or worldwide?
That's worldwide.
Oh, wow.
Domestic, it made $106 million. And people are saying it's a flop, and I don't get that.
I think it's definitely DC's strongest offering in their cinematic universe.
That's strong agree, 100% agree. I think this is the best movie, and everyone. I am a Justice League and Batman versus Superman apologist. I love those vehicles. This was by far the DCEU should be shaped by this movie. Whatever's left in the tank at this point, and who knows if the DCEU is even still a thing at this point. This was by far, to me, the best movie to come out of this offering in the last 5 years. And Aquaman and Shazam were very different movies to me. They did not live in the same kind of visceral, R-rated realism that this movie is set in. They're different corners of the multiverse to me.
Totally. I found Aquaman delightful, but in a very different way than I found this movie fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the DCEU has just been doing better and better as time has been going on. I think it's working against the trend of a reputation to work against it.
Yeah.
And, it's working against the name of, it's a DC. Oh, it's a DCEU movie. I don't know. But if you're watching them all like we are, I think you could definitely see them trending up.
Yeah. Yep. Strong agree.
Yeah. And I think it's a big part of that is when they diversified the directors who were working on their projects. Because when it's kind of one guy doing everything, things are going to be a little one note. But when you have different viewpoints and different methods of storytelling, things get more exciting.
Yep.
Strong agree. And I'm excited to see where Christina Hodson goes with the storytelling in Flash. And, the internet rumor mill is that she is now the architect of the DCEU. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've read. And
it's a rumor she started on her Twitter.
But, I certainly enjoyed this way more than Bumblebee. And I think Bumblebee was a little bit more, nuts and boltsy. But
no pun intended.
Yes, no pun intended. But I mean, just in terms of over under, that's like the storytelling here. It's like the growth of the storytelling that she is doing. I mean, I don't know what will come out next that she's written, but I want to see it.
Yeah.
Like her storytelling and script construction is just fantastic. So I would love if she is the new architect of the DCEU, if they are even going to have an architect. I don't know, but I would be excited if that's a true rumor.
I would love to see the director Kathy Yan.
Yes.
Her next project, because oh my God, I was blown away by the choices made on this movie, both in the editing and the cinematography and how, the casting, just all these elements, I think were super successful. And I was reading a little bit about her, and she's a relatively young director. Yep. She only, I think, had another feature under her belt. So I'm super excited for her to keep watching where she goes from here.
Yeah, it's I really, we say all the time, show me something new and I'm all in. And I love the look of this film, the way it was shot, the way it made me feel. And it was really, for me, it really called back to, not in a way of emulation, but how groundbreaking and different The Matrix was when it came out, and the visual style of the Wachowskis that they brought to cinema, with all of the new, the different technologies that they had put into play. This excited me in a similar way, and certainly it's a different style of filmmaking, but it's her, her fingerprints are on this, and I want to see more movies that look and feel like this.
Yeah.
Should we just maybe just grab a couple of specific raves and then
Sure.
move on?
Sure.
We've been kind of drooling over this movie, which I think deservingly so. Sketch, you want to start us off with a specific rave?
Okay, sure. I'll start one even before the movie. Even before the movie came out. I'll talk about two specific marketing things that they did, because I thought they were awesome. And we talked a lot last episode about Sonic's marketing and Sonic's legs. And I don't know if it just had me in the mindset of looking at posters and stuff, but so the logo to the Birds of Prey. Do you remember the logo for it? As you'd see it on posters?
Yeah, it was Birds of Prey, and then the Harley was kind of written in or in neon in the corner of it.
Do you see it there?
Yeah.
Yes.
What I love about this logo is all the use of negative space.
Yep.
Now, every character is represented in that poster.
Oh wow! I didn't even.
And it's
Wait a minute!
So
Oh my gosh!
Wow. Holy shit!
That is so cool.
You got the mask as the bee. You got the arrow. You got the bow.
The knife.
It's such a smart logo, and it deserves credit. That graphic design behind that logo is phenomenal.
Oh, except Huntress would be very upset.
I know.
It's crossbow. It's not a bow and arrow. Not 12.
It's not a 12-year-old.
Not 12-year-old.
And then one of their first posters, or maybe it was the final poster too. I don't know if you remember seeing it, but it was an obvious homage or adaptation of The Birth of Venus, the Renaissance painting by Botticelli.
Yes.
And again, so freaking smart, because for whatever reason, it worked really well for this movie to kind of superimpose these characters into a Renaissance painting, because it was in a lot of ways a rebirth of the DCEU movie franchise.
I think that was the IMAX poster, what you're talking about.
Yeah. It was Harley in the clamshell. And I mean, they did a really good job of not flat out copying, obviously, The Birth of Venus, but making it incredibly recognizable to anyone who's ever seen that work before. It was just super smart marketing before the movie even came out.
Strong agree. Yeah.
So I have to give credit to those background artists who were working tirelessly. Wow.
And I've looked at this so many times, and I'm, only just now when you brought it up, I was like, oh my goodness, how did I miss all of that graphic design work in the negative space? I'm a sucker for a good negative space. That's true. That's the thing. You have said, that is how I describe you. Yep. To people. All right, I'll take this down. So thank you. There you go. Yeah, that's my first rave. Sure. Zehra, do you have a specific rave from watching or the experience?
Oh gosh, I feel like I blew my raves already.
Yeah.
I wrote a review of this movie on Twitter last night. All it said was Black Canary, hot. Huntress, hot. I ship it.
I love it.
I don't know. It was just... Okay, here's a specific rave. We haven't talked about Zaz, who was creepy-licious. Yeah. I feel like Ewan McGregor's villain was funny. At times I felt like he was just kind of Ewan McGregor playing a villain, but his henchman Zaz darkened it all to such a level. I mean, I guess, you can't really get around being dark if you skin people's faces, but he was so creepy in his expression and with how little he used his few words to such a great menacing extent. So props to, I'm blanking on that actor, Chris Messina, I think.
Yes. Yep.
really, really awesome work. I also want to rave about Black Canary's little convertible, her little canary colored convertible. Yep. It was so fun.
Her Jag,
and her her Jaguar. I loved the attention to detail on all the, like, each character had a vehicle and a series of props that just perfectly matched and helped tell the story of them, even if they didn't like specifically refer to like, oh, that's my car and blah blah blah.
Right.
Like, you get so much info about her because she drives that car, because she wears those gold pants. Like, just really great costume and set prop design, all that.
Oh yeah, strong agree there. It didn't even occur to me the first time I watched it, but I did notice. I was like, oh yeah, she's driving a canary colored Jaguar. Like, that's perfect. And it's not the Batmobile, and it's not, lovingly maintained. It's utilitarian, except why is she driving like a 30-year-old convertible?
Yeah.
It tells you everything you need to know about that character.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're right. I didn't think of like the specific props that went with each character. And then just along with that, how they each got a piece of Harley at the end, which was just so wonderful.
From her box of tricks.
Yeah, from her box of tricks. They all get a specific, and Black Canary takes this like ridiculous belt that serves no purpose whatsoever. It's just flashy and she loves it. It's just like, sure, that's perfect. And
Oh, I have one more rave since we're on the Black Canary train.
Yeah.
I loved the sound design of her power, her scream power. I'm glad that it wasn't just a scream.
Yeah.
There were like these birds twittering, and it was almost a silent, kind of like a sonic.
Yep.
And like, I just thought that was so creative, and it could have been really stupid looking and sounding, but it was really classy.
The noise that they produced was so smart because without actually hurting your ears, it felt painful. Like all those little side noises, you're thinking, are these coming out of her mouth or are these my ears breaking down? Like,
right.
It was that well built of a sound. And I'm so thankful they used it once. Like, it was the big canary cry moment.
And again, it's built anticipation. You're waiting for her to use her power. She's fighting. You're like, why aren't you using your superpower?
Right.
And then it comes.
Right.
Yeah. Very satisfying.
Perfect. I did keep thinking about it, and the anticipation was going to be, in media, we have the Arrowverse Canary Cry, which, like, every time I hear it, it hurts. It hurts to hear that coming over the TV, and I'm always bouncing audio, so I'm always listening in cans, headphones, and whenever the canary cry it was just like shrill, and it was so artistic and poetic and perfect. And I missed that the first time, the birds chirping and how everything else just goes, like, is sucked out of the room.
Right.
It is perfect. Any more raves that you wanted to get out, Zehra?
I'm just, in talking about this with you guys and processing it, I'm realizing I really, really liked this movie.
Right.
Like, it was really good. Like, I'm trying to think of any, I guess, do we have a negative section?
Yeah,
we're about to transition, okay. I feel like, to
copy.
rants. I'm
like trying to figure out what I want to say.
Right.
And finding it difficult.
I have like the smallest of rants when we get there. I have not seen a movie in years that laid out its acts so well, and things that were highlighted in Act 1 were built upon and then wrapped up so nicely in Act 3. And there are many, but I just wanted to highlight roller derby, the business card, and the egg sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Chekhov's egg sandwich. And it was like, okay, and I was like, oh, they're just, they're trying to build upon different elements of all the things that Harley has been in her career. And in that run of Harley Quinn, we talked about roller derby is her thing, but it was like, oh no, she's going to use roller derby in the final fight. And like, we go through the progression of her being a mercenary, a finder of lost things, to the final, we get the business card, Harley Quinn and Associates, badass motherfuckers. And then I felt like I understood Harley in new ways in this movie, where like all she really wants is that egg sandwich. That is her world. It's like, breakfast is my thing, diners are my thing, and I'm just broken by everything that's happening right now. And we were rewatching it. I was like, oh my God, I understand Harley for the first time. Like, I understand how her brain works now. Because like, for a while we weren't able to get eggs, and then we were able to get eggs. And my thing has just been like egg sandwiches. And that's like my sense of normalcy in the morning. It's like, oh my God, like she's never been a character that I've identified with. It was like, I get this character. I get her now. And this movie delivered on everything that it put out there, on all of the origin stories that it gave us. And I'll just kind of go into this. Every character got an origin story, went on a journey, and then grew by the end of the movie. And were a different person from where they started at the beginning of the movie. And that's incredible to like, and it worked, and I got it all. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't need a standalone Black Canary movie. I don't need a standalone Huntress movie. I don't need a Renee Montoya backstory. I don't need, 3 orphan movies for, Cassandra Cain, becomes done. You've just successfully laid out all of these characters, and I hope we get more movies with them. Maybe we won't, but if we don't, okay. I went on this journey that took Marvel 22 movies, and I didn't enjoy all of them.
Whoa.
I didn't.
Shots fired. I haven't even seen some of them according to our rankings episode.
I haven't seen all of them, but
didn't stop you from ranking them.
It didn't. I'll be that guy. And I think that's so, when a movie functions that well, when a script delivers in that way, and then a director is able to like visualize and give life to what is on the page. I mean, I can't, in a similar way I can't think of a superhero movie where they've got each other's backs and they're fighting for, a purpose, and there isn't, as we said, it isn't just, a measuring contest. I can't think of a movie that I've seen in years that functioned this well. Maybe not since like the first Ocean's 11 reboot. Like that, just the way it laid things out and then delivered in the end. I don't think it did it that well.
Well, I'll tell you my biggest rave, I think, kind of explains your rave as well. And my biggest rave is having Harley be the narrator of this entire story, because it explains away any inconsistencies that you find in the movie. You're just like, well, it's Harley Quinn. She's an unreliable narrator. Like, of course, she'd be thinking that, the Huntress who seems so like flat and stone cold and emotionless, she's known her for a day tops, and she's recounting this story, and she's like assigning this character to her.
And she was coked out of her brain for most of it.
Yeah. So like having Harley be the one to tell the story, like immediately for me, anywhere where, like a lot of times we say rant is anything that takes you out of the movie.
Right.
I could immediately explain it away and say, it's Harley's perception of how all this went down.
I love that.
Totally.
I love that.
It's a great point.
Yeah, every time Margot Robbie looked down the barrel of the camera, I loved it. Like, sure, this happened exactly as I'm telling it, and I love that. You're absolutely right. It's I was hard pressed to find some rants. Which shall we transition to rants?
Yeah, we can do a couple rants.
Sketch, do you have I feel like you've got one loaded in the barrel.
Do I?
I don't know. Do you?
Okay, well, I'll say my biggest rant. The thing that I just couldn't get over.
Transition.
And that is when this movie was announced first. It was announced as a Birds of Prey movie. And I feel like that just kept getting backpedaled and backpedaled more. And it turned more into a Harley Quinn movie, which I'm totally fine with a Harley Quinn movie because I love Harley Quinn. But I got less and less of my Birds movie. Like if this was just Harley Quinn and not Birds of Prey, and by the end of the movie, the birds came together, and I was like, this is where the Birds of Prey came from. Awesome. But because I was like primed for Birds of Prey, I didn't get as much of the birds as I wanted because we got so much Harley. And the biggest sin for me, no nod or mention or Easter egg for Barbara Gordon.
Right.
How do you do anything Birds of Prey without like a little Barbara Gordon somewhere? And I'm not saying put her in there, but like Oracle graffiti somewhere. Or, just something that she's in this universe.
Have her on a computer screen somewhere. She's, or the Oracle mask from the comics that she's, working her hacker magic.
Sure. If you're doing birds, you got to give me a little Babs.
Yep.
So.
That's a really interesting thing. It seems like it was a very deliberate choice to not involve her at all.
Right.
And I can't help but wonder when a choice is that deliberate, if there's some kind of licensing issue, because different properties within the Warner Brothers umbrella can use different characters. They can, like, we ran into this, I've heard from Young Justice a lot. They wanted to use this character or assign this attribute to this character, but DC Comics says you can have this guy, but you can't have this guy. And you want to do this with this guy? No, you can't do that. So like, there's a lot of, within the Warner Brothers umbrella, which owns DC Comics, which owns the cinematic universe and rights, which owns, like, there's a lot of partitioning of characters. And so I can't help but wonder when if Barbara Gordon is such a huge presence in the Birds of Prey series, to like not have her at all in this movie, I think that's a fascinatingly deliberate choice that might point to licensing issues.
That's some real world bleeding into the
it is into
the story.
We have said before, Sketch, the greatest villain of the DCEU is Warner Brothers, and I would not be surprised at all if that were the case, where they're just like, you can't have Batgirl for this. For a while there, Joss Whedon was supposed to be helming a Barbara Gordon standalone film. And I know, I don't know what's happening with that, but I feel like that's not a thing anymore. Not that the movie's not coming out, but I think Joss Whedon's involvement in that is come to an end. But that seems plausible that they just didn't have the ability to use her.
Sure.
Which was, my biggest rant. How do you do Birds of Prey without Barbara Gordon?
Oh, look at us.
It's that was my biggest rant. I know. My second rant was it felt like such they missed a real opportunity to do something definitive with Harley Quinn for the first time. And it's a little rant. That she's still adrift in the DCU at the end of this vehicle, which was, I understand, was like putting her on her own 2 feet. But at the end of it, after all of this growth, she steals Dinah's car and drives off. She does have Cassandra Cain, but if in the next movie Harley Quinn and Associates Badass Motherfuckers is still a thing, I will retract this rant.
Okay.
If that like grows and there's an umbrella to this that she does put her quote unquote band of Harleys together, of course it'll look something, like something else. But if that's a thing where we go from movie to movie, if she is this universe's Deadpool, then I will retract this rant. If we go into Suicide Squad and she's back to the eye candy, then this becomes even bigger of a rant.
Yeah, that's a problem.
This character has grown in such, to the character in this movie in particular, the growth is just so profound. And in the way in which, we didn't even talk about, and not to rave again, she uses psychology, to manipulate. And that was the thing about, we talked about the Mario Brothers movie. They plumb. They actually use plumbing, which is like, that's perfect. Like, this was an instance of that. And so rarely do we get a character who uses their skill sets, that she's not just someone's sidekick or she's not just crazy. She does have these moments of clarity that are interspersed with moments of insanity.
She used it throughout the movie, and I absolutely loved it.
And she
diagnosed Roman at the beginning.
Yes.
She kind of almost provides therapy to Huntress at the end. She's definitely using it to bring everyone together. I mean,
and she uses her insanity in a similar way.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope at the end of this, the growth of the character in this movie continues, at least in cinema.
Wow. You just blew my mind a little bit thinking about how because for me, what's always been most interesting about Harley is the idea of someone who's so together and so insightful into the human condition, like a psychiatrist, for them to fall to the insanity and the chaos that she falls to. Like, that to me is the fascinating thing about this character.
Yeah.
And so pointing out that she uses her psychology and her analytical skills in the same way she uses her insanity to help others, like that is just kind of just blown my mind about the character. And I think Harley Quinn might have just like rocketed up to one of my most favorite DC characters, because that's really fascinating.
And that's why I'm saying I love what DC's doing with her. Like, they're really pumping this up in her. I mean, it's not just the eye candy side girl anymore. She's a legit awesome character.
Yeah.
And I even like in the movie, we're supposed to be ranting, but okay. but like the whole thing is, she sums it up when she says to Cassandra Cain, like, you made me want to be less terrible
person.
Yeah.
And it's like, right now she's not to the point where like she's trying to be good. I mean, she's still gonna steal from Canary at the end.
Right.
Villain's got a bill. Yeah.
But she's trying to be a little less terrible. She gives the Bertinelli bank account numbers to Huntress at the end of the week. She just pockets the diamond, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And, something I couldn't help but think about is it was so nice to have a movie about Harley Quinn that didn't have the Joker in it.
Oh,
it was just a little animation in the beginning.
Yep.
In the same way that the movie Joker, it was nice to have a Joker movie without Batman.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate, the DC films taking this kind of very, if you remove the thing that defines the character, what does the character define on its own? In its own regard? And I think that is one of the greatest things you can do to evolve and make a character more deep and more complex. I know this is I might be alone in this, but I would love to see Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn in a film with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I think that would be some fascinating stuff.
Yeah, that could be some interesting on-screen chemistry right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've still yet to see Joker.
Wow.
Oh!
Yeah. I know, right? Did I just lose some major cred there? Some geek cred?
You just have an experience ahead of you.
What a
positive way of putting it. I like that.
Thank you. I'll take that.
I am so curious to hear what you guys think about Joker. But that's for another podcast.
That's for another episode, I suppose.
We'll
I have a couple of rants.
Please, yeah.
Okay, so first one is not really a rant, but a little point of confusion.
Sure.
She had the name tag Bruce around her collar, and I learned later that Bruce was the name of her hyena, but I thought she was talking about Bruce Wayne, and did she name the hyena after Bruce Wayne? That was a little unclear to me.
Yes. Yep.
Because Bruce Wayne she named the hyena after Bruce Wayne,
because he's so hot.
Tag, because he's such
rich.
Such a hunk.
Yep, such a hunk. And rich.
But the name on her Joker was specifically for the hyena.
The hyena.
Who thankfully lived.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, thank God Bruce is alive. But so is that from the comics or is that explained in the movie and I just zoned out?
Explained in the movie.
Okay. Copy.
The beaver is explained in the comics. But
yeah, the beaver is a comic character. Yes. And in the animated series, she had two hyenas.
Yes.
And they were named after Abbott and Costello, I think.
That's right.
Abbott and Costello, or
It's-
was it Three Stooges? It was Three
Well, it was
Stooges.
two of them, so it was a classic comedy duo. I remember.
I thought she gives
Fosse Verdon.
I thought it was something to do with Three Stooges because Shemp got an extra steak.
Oh, maybe we'll have to look it up for the midstream.
I think it was Larry and Shemp, maybe.
All right,
My second rant
sure.
is with Roman, Ewan McGregor's character. I think I said earlier, it took me a few scenes to get into him because I love Ewan McGregor. I had an Obi-Wan Kenobi Mountain Dew life-size stand in my room as a teenage girl.
Wow.
I've been a big fan of Ewan McGregor for a long time.
You heard it here
like
first, long-time listeners.
I feel like he was phoning it in a little bit because at least at the start, because it was like, oh, this is Ewan McGregor being a villain. I felt no sense of menace from him initially, to the point where I was wondering, he always had other people doing his dirty work. He had Zaz actually doing the murdering. At some point, he was like, shoot her. So I was like, oh, is this feature of this villain where he doesn't want to get his hands dirty? He has other people do it. He doesn't want to kill himself. But then he pulled a gun out and I'm like, okay, no, there goes my theory on that. So I just felt there was a little inconsistency in his villainy. And I would have loved if, I know Zaz was a true menace and a true threat. I would have loved, though, if there had been a little bit more development of his character so that I felt higher stakes at the end of the movie.
That's so interesting, Zehra. I didn't even put it together until you just said he didn't want to get his hands dirty. He literally wore gloves through the whole movie, and every time he came into contact with, he changed them. He
would wear the gloves during the dirty deeds.
That's so interesting. He wore the gloves. That character was so dissociative. It was almost like he was playing two different characters, not the Black Mask character, but I don't know. Yeah, it was hit and miss for me at times because you're right. He seemed so non-threatening, but then also like zero to just psychotic.
With the dance club scene.
And
I think that psychotic is the true character, and everything in the beginning is the real Black Mask. That's the real mask that he's wearing.
Yeah.
I have everything put together. I'm this suave club owner. I'm going to control the city. I mean, he's all about control. And the moment there's any hint that no, sorry, Roman, you don't have control, the mask comes off and he's just his psychotic self. I think it was so smart to have the duo of a villain team, the Zaz and the Black Mask, because Black Mask was so unhinged, but ultimately harmless. But when you had Zaz, who was so committed and like so willing to do anything for him, you're like, oh, this is frightening.
That's the danger.
But so when Zaz was taken out of the equation before the last fight started, I was like, okay, well, there's no real threat because Ewan McGregor's a dinky dink.
Yeah.
And he was taken out. I love the way he was taken out. Spoiler alert. That was amazing.
I'm a fan of comeuppance, and those were high-class comeuppance. I remember
so well.
I remember in the theater like shouting, like, oh!
Yes.
Because I wasn't expecting. I was expecting the splash in the water and then the underwater explosion. Completely subverted that.
Well, I mean,
the perfect amount of gore.
Yep.
I was waiting for like the Hasselhoff Baywatch exit of like, maybe he's alive, maybe he's not, but he is very dead.
There's no coming back.
There's no coming back from that.
Ewan McGregor got a 1-movie contract.
Well, he has to go film the Obi-Wan series for Disney Plus.
So. Right. That was you're right. You have said that before. You are a fan of comeuppance, and those were the ultimate.
Those are great comeuppance.
We're supposed to be ranting, and clearly you can longtime listeners, you can tell our true feelings of this movie. Any big questions before
I have one last rant. It is minor.
Minor
but
rant.
It was one thing that I just could not suspend my disbelief in.
And it's minor, okay?
It's kind of minor. I mean, it was a big plot point of the movie, but I could not believe for the life of me that Cassandra Cain did not recognize the Joker or had ever heard of the Joker.
Oh.
Because to me, it would be like not recognizing Al Capone in the 20s. Like, she's a street smart kid who's been out there. She's been in and out of cop stations.
Yeah.
And she sees Joker's face on Harley's wall and is like, who is that? And like genuinely doesn't know who the Joker is. And that was the one thing that I could not believe, even if Harley's telling the story.
But he's old. He's like 30. So why would she know about him?
He is old. He is old. And I was thinking, because everything with Harley has to have happened in like the last 3 years. So everything's got to be fresh in Gotham's mind.
Right.
So I'm like, Cassandra, how do you not know Joker?
You know what I thought you were going to say? I thought you were going to say, I can't believe that Cassandra Cain could have pooped out a diamond of that size.
No, that I believe.
That would tear your intestines apart or like require surgery.
When she swallowed it the first time, I just remember thinking like that is just such a bad idea. That is so pointy. Like, oh, sweetheart, that's going to hurt.
Nah, just they needed a strainer. It was fine.
Yeah, bring in the colander.
Oh.
I loved that. I loved that Cassandra didn't have any idea who the Joker was.
No, I mean, it was
that.
key. It was key to Harley's story. That here's this character who looks up to her and doesn't even tie her to the Joker at all.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I thought about it and was it a rant that the Joker and Batman and Gordon don't seem to exist or have ever existed in this. And at the end, it was like, no, I don't care. I don't care where they are. I don't care what happened to them. And I don't care that nobody is like living. I love Gotham City without those characters is so interesting to me. It's like the Bat universe is so full of rich characters that never seem to spread.
I mean, I wrote down as a rave that I didn't say that not having the Joker in it was the 100% right decision for this movie. And that going into the movie, it was my biggest apprehension. Like, I don't want this to turn into a Joker movie. Yeah. I don't want this to be Harley and Joker.
Especially not a Jared Leto Joker movie.
Exactly. And so when he wasn't in it at all, except for like one back shot, I was totally on board. But I mean, his presence is still in the movie, and it's important that his presence is in the movie because it is what Harley's working past the whole time. So that was the one thing, especially on my rewatch. I was just like, Cassandra, you're smarter than this. Here's well, oh wait, are we going into big questions?
I think we can.
Okay. This just dawned on me. Do you think Cassandra's arm is really broken, or is the cast like a decoy for her pickpocketing?
Oh.
I think decoy for the pickpocketing.
Yeah, I feel like it was broken. Yeah, but she never went back to get it off because it's too good of a tool. Yep.
That's what I mean. Was broken at one point, but now it's healed, and her parents are so awful, and it is too good of a tool. No one would ever suspect. Yeah.
I also have a big question about Cassandra Cain. So let me preface this with a lot of my understanding of the DC universe comes from working on Young Justice. I read mostly X-Men comics as a kid.
Okay.
And so I've had to play catch up a little bit with like my DC comics knowledge. So the Cassandra Cain's origins, it's my understanding that they're different in different iterations. And okay, this might be a spoiler for the character, but it's my understanding that at some point she's going to get her tongue cut out. Is that a thing?
So this is the problem with the DC universe, that it has like retconned itself so many times in such a short period at this point. So when the character was first introduced, her father was one of the people that trained Batman. And originally Cassandra Cain was mute.
Okay.
And her mother is Lady Shiva.
Right.
And she was trained in the language of fighting. So like her whole thing was that she was able to communicate with like by punching people or kicking people a specific way. Like, so she was originally mute. And then in the New 52, they retconned her, and she just didn't exist in continuity.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they wrote a lot of people out of continuity in New 52, and then in Rebirth they brought her back. But I mean, eventually she did learn to not be mute anymore, which I thought was kind of a disservice to the character. But in the Rebirth, she speaks, and she's now a character called Orphan, which is more to where this version of Cassandra Cain seems to be. I don't know if they'll go that route. I think that would be cool if they would, if as the character grows, she becomes the mute version.
The whole movie, I was just like, oh God, please don't cut
out her tongue. I know,
tongue
right?
out. Like, I don't want to see that. Nobody needs that right now.
I mean, that would be the way to do it, right? Have Zaz cut her tongue out. But
he's dead, so thank God.
Yes,
she's safe.
He's very dead. Almost as dead.
Oh, stab.
Yeah, everyone got to hit him on him at the
end. That was fantastic.
That intersection again of violence and slapstick comedy is so good.
Yes. It is so good.
Even the blow up at the end is
come up and
it's gory, but it was also hilarious.
Oh, look at us. We're raving again.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
It is. I have one big question.
Sure.
It was almost a rant.
Oh my.
Where is Poison Ivy?
Yes.
I mean, she's so intrinsic to Harley's character at this point, and to her growth. I kept asking myself, where is Poison Ivy? Particularly, and to a lesser extent, like, where are the other villains of Gotham? Like, okay,
licensing.
But it wasn't, the movie worked so well that it wasn't a rant. But I found it hard to believe that in a Harley Quinn centric movie, there was no Ivy.
Well, maybe Suicide Squad 2, right? That's the next one with Harley.
Yeah.
The Suicide Squad.
Oh, the Suicide Squad.
Oh, that's. Wait, it's called the sequel to Suicide Squad is The Suicide Squad?
Yes. It's not quite a reboot.
We're starting to take a lot of liberties with titles of movie series lately. All right, I have one. I also have one big question. Was lighting the biker's beard on fire a little nod to the Batman and Harley Quinn animated movie? Because that's how she ultimately won the day.
Lit Floronic Man on fire. Yeah.
That's cool.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, it was the first thing that crossed my mind when I saw that scene. I was like, Harley would, and Harley has.
Yeah.
I was like, is his beard been doused in gasoline?
Hair is
does
incredibly
hair light up that
fast?
Yes.
Oh yes.
Do you speak from experience?
Yes, I do. I had a major, a minor, I should say. I had a minor grill mishap last year, where the grill just kind of went, poof, and hair singes it just goes up.
Wow.
I don't know that it like goes up and just like engulfs you in flames, but it burns like that.
Well,
let's not live to find out.
He's also a biker, so you can
lots of motor oil in there. He's been working on
he's got some flammable liquids.
Sure,
I buy it.
Zehra, do you have any big questions?
I guess the big question is, where do we go from here? Sorry, for those of you at home, there's a little kitty visitor here on the podcast.
Never apologize for a kitty visitor.
She might step on my keyboard and stop the stream at any moment. But I guess questions, I mean, my biggest thing was about Bruce, the hyena, and then Cassandra Cain. I was worried about her life. I guess my biggest question is, will this movie get a sequel?
God, I hope so.
I really enjoyed these characters and this universe and like this team. And I would love to see it continued. But again, it's hard for me to get super invested if I know that it's not going to, if that's not in the plan.
Yeah.
And I think that's been my major criticism of the DC cinematic universe in general. Like if they're recasting Batman every couple of years, if they're recasting Superman every couple of years, it's like, well, I'm not saying that the DC cinematic universe needs to be like the MCU, but some cohesion I think would help us all stay invested for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's my big question is, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn and
I
Associates.
truly hope we get the birds back. I really feel like we'll get Harley in something. But I do
The
worry.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, the Suicide Squad. But I do worry that we won't see the birds again. And I now that they've meshed, now that they've overcome their obstacles, I want to see them be that team.
Yeah, and those actresses are all so good.
Yeah,
they were great, and I would love to see all of them do their thing again. Yeah.
Strong agree.
Time will tell. Should we transition over to the animated series?
I think, sounds like a good plan.
Hey LTLs, it's Shades here, and I just want to remind you that our sponsor this week, just like every week, is you, our longtime listeners. And you can become a sponsor of the show by heading over to patreon.com/shadesansketch, where you can support the show for as little as $1 a month. But right now, we are running our very new, very special Geeking Out Kids Club for adults who are basically still kids at heart. And you can go over to patreon.com/shadesansketch and sign up at that tier today. Guys, we thank you so much for helping us keep the lights on in the GOCO. Now, back to this week's episode.
Announced on November 20th, 2017, to air on the then unnamed DC streaming service, Harley Quinn is the brainchild of Justin Halpern, Patrick Schumacher, and Dean Lorey. At the time of announcement, the team was aggressively pursuing Margot Robbie to reprise her film role. But the next update came in October of 2018 when it was given a premiere date of October 2019 and further announced that Kaley Cuoco would be voicing Harley and serving as executive producer through her Yes Norman production company. Lake Bell was also announced as voicing Poison Ivy. All important internet scores. IMDb gives it an 8.4. Rotten Tomatoes critic score is an 87. Fan score is a 91. 97% of Google reviewers loves Harley Quinn.
That's a high one.
It is. I gave it a 90.
Wow. Good job.
I like the show.
Yeah. You don't have to be sheepish about that. Shout it from the rooftops.
I gave it a 90.
There you go. I gave it a 92. So I am,
Very cool.
Zehra, what would you give it?
I would probably fall in the 90. I have such complex feelings about this show, and I'm a little biased because I've auditioned for it several times and not been cast. So I watch it with a little bit of an eye. I'm like, what choice did they make there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a rant.
I love it.
No.
Long-time listeners, you heard it here first.
The only reason why it's getting into rant territory is because I freaking love the writing on this show.
Yeah.
Every time I would get an audition script, I'd be like, this is hilarious. This is right up my sense of humor alley. God, I want to work on this show. And when we were treated to a preview of the pilot episode at Comic-Con last summer. So it was like a DC Universe panel where Young Justice, we announced that we'd been renewed for season 4. And then Justin Halpern and Patrick Schumacher came up and were talking about Harley Quinn. And as a treat, they aired the entire pilot episode to a packed room at Comic-Con, roaring with laughter. It was the most fun way to watch that show. And so I think I knew it was going to be hilarious. And when I finally sat down and watched through, most of season 1, it did not disappoint me in the humor. But at the same time, I didn't fall in love with it the way that I thought I was going to. So for that reason, 90.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's start with rants because we're kind of ranting. Is that cool?
That's fine.
There are my biggest issue with this is it's a series about Harley Quinn, and sometimes it feels like it's not about Harley. And I love the writing, and there's something about it that Harley never quite stands on her own, and you almost feel like we're laughing at Harley at times rather than cheering for her. She's leading the crew. She's already won, but she'll never get out of her own way. I do love the sense of humor. I love the show, but there's something about it that it never quite brings Harley to that next level. If there is any amount of growth by the end of the episode, we retreat. I feel that. It's smart, it's funny, but there's something off. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Well, I will say that similar to what Zehra said, like I was expecting when I watched Harley that like I was going to binge it and just go through every single episode. And I can take breaks. I can watch an episode and be like, okay, I'll watch another one tomorrow or the next day. And I don't know if that is just how the episodes are, that they're just pretty self-contained and pretty easy to be satisfied by the end of it and not be hooked in. But I was expecting going into it to be a lot more invested than I am.
Shame on you for having expectations.
I know we always say it's really hard to go into something with expectations, but there are things about it that I never expected that I love, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Not there yet.
Yeah. Gosh, it sounds like we all feel very, very similarly.
Yeah.
Like I love the humor of this show, and we will get to that. I love the acting on this show.
Yes.
And I have a lot to say about that. But I feel like the show doesn't really find its stride until episode 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I feel like the first 5 episodes are very repetitive, where it's like, oh, Harley's in trouble, and oh, good, Poison Ivy's here to save her.
Right.
And, they have the same conversation back and forth. Are you still about the Joker? Like I thought you need to get over him. Like that's very repetitive. And if it's done intentionally, because in real life, these situations getting out of a relationship can be cyclical and it can be repetitive, and friendships and relationships with people are hard. It just feels like it treads the same ground too much in the first half of the first season. Once the second half ramped up, I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is good.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to feel that sense of bingey investment.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. It's right in like the middle of the Legion of Doom arc, I think, is when it was in the show kind of found its stride for me.
Yeah, that's when I got most excited about watching it.
And and it was like they just keep replacing. They're just all substitutes for the Joker. Everything's a substitute for the Joker. Whether it's the crew or joining the Legion of Doom, it's like, it's 13 episodes is a lot to like spin your wheels for 5 or 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Just make a 6-episode miniseries.
And I will say, like, I think the showrunners are doing a fantastic job. Their background, I should note, is in live action and live action comedy. And so they are bringing that sensibility to an animated series for the first time. I believe it's the first animated series for both of them.
Cool.
So taking that into account, there might be growing pains on how to pace things in animation.
Interesting.
And it's specifically an adult animated series, an R-rated animated series. There's likely growing pains. This is DC's first adult animated show. So sometimes the style you'd think that you're used to seeing with Batman the Animated Series, something more along those lines, is now in this almost South Parkian script. And so that is a little jarring, and it takes a minute to be like, okay, I got to adjust to the fact that this character who looks like this is saying the C word. Like, I think there's a learning curve for the show creators, and there's a learning curve for us as the viewers we need to be trained to view this art with this style. Does that make sense?
Yes. It absolutely does. Because I wrote down something similar, but not as put eloquently as you just did. Just that, like, for something that is really funny most of the time.
Yeah.
When the humor doesn't work, it's very flat and and like they pause on it, like, huh? Yeah. And you're like, ugh. And it does feel at times like sitcom humor, which it didn't dawn on me, that realization, until you were just saying all that it's like it's a translation problem.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I did not have that until you just said it. Friends was not my thing. I didn't get it. I didn't like. I was probably because I was too young when I was watching it, but I just remember like that experience of watching a sitcom like that and not getting it and not enjoying it. That's exactly the feeling that I had in the first season of Harley Quinn, I'll say. And I think, minor spoiler, I think the last 3 episodes of the series and then season 2 is a very different show, and for good reasons. And that's so interesting. I did not put that together, but I think you're right that they're bringing like a live situational comedy ethos to an animated world, and that doesn't always work. That's 100% agree with that.
And maybe it's a good time for me to say I'm judging completely on season 1. Season 2 has come out as of recording this, but I've only seen season 1 so far.
Yeah.
So if things have leveled out or smoothed over, I'm excited to see it, but I can't comment on it.
Can I throw a big rant out here?
A big rant, okay.
A big rant.
Oh wow, do it.
Harley Quinn has an iconic voice. And I say Harley Quinn has an iconic voice because there have been many actors to voice her. Arlene Sorkin, Tara Strong, Melissa Rauch. And I love that Kaylee has chosen something unique to brand it in her own take on the character. But sometimes it's almost like I'm watching a different character and not Harley Quinn, because
interesting.
Harley not only has a voice, but she has a cadence and a style and a dialect to her that they're not recreating in this show. And it takes me out of the series because I always have to say like, oh, okay, well, they're doing something different. And I applaud them for doing something different. It just doesn't work for me. And it's in the back of my mind, it's like, it's not hard, I won't embarrass myself by trying to do it. But it's like that Brooklyn-y, not quite Brooklyn, but
Mr. J.
Yeah, well, it's like she has a voice and a way of speaking, and this show does not replicate that in the writing or in the voice acting.
I did like in the episode where she goes back to her family, her mother and her stepfather, that her voice starts to take back those inflections.
But it was also like it was Boston, like it was all wrong for Harley.
It's interesting because I guess it boils down to if you like Kaylee Cuoco and her choices and her acting. I love Kaylee Cuoco. I used to, back in the early days of the Big Bang Theory, I was a big fan actually for the first 4 or 5 seasons, and then I kind of stopped watching. But I've always really appreciated Kaylee Cuoco, and so when I watch the show, though, I'm very aware that it is the Kaylee Cuoco show.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, she's first billed. She has her own title card. And then all the rest of the cast, including all the big hitters, they're all on one title card together. So it's like, oh, okay, this is Kaylee's showcase show. Yeah. A little background on the casting. Like initially when they were first announcing the show, they said they were hoping to get Margot Robbie to voice the character. And when auditions went out, this was like early 2018, end of 2017. I actually had the opportunity to audition for Poison Ivy.
I was going to say, like, that's your wheelhouse.
Totally. And I loved that script. I loved that character. But it became very clear once they made kind of their announcements about Kaylee Cuoco that they were going to try to get a celebrity cast. And not to take away anything from the casting, because, I think the acting work on this show is really great, especially Lake Bell, who plays Poison Ivy. Yeah. She's my favorite part of this show.
Same here.
But I think it's very much not a stunt cast, but it's okay, we have Kaylee Cuoco, who's TV's biggest sitcom star. Yeah. Who can we put into kind of, Giancarlo Esposito and, all these big TV names, Diedrich Bader as Batman, Alan Tudyk, who also plays many roles on Young Justice as the Joker. Like, so it's like boom, 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 boom. And that was a huge marketing decision too. Like, this is an adult animated series. It's going to be serious with serious actors. Yeah. I'm using air quotes for those of you who can't see.
Great audio.
They do make deafening audio.
And so Yeah, I definitely take your point that it's not the Harley Quinn that we've come to know in different media. It's definitely Kaylee Cuoco putting her own stamp on it.
Any other rants for Harley Quinn?
I have another, but it's like so tied to a rave. It's like
Oh.
the flip of the rave coin that I have that I can't do it first.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I have a throwaway that I just really would love to share. And Zehra, do you have a rant of substance? We know they didn't cast you, jerks.
That's okay. It's okay. I've made peace with it. I think what is my half-baked rant? It's two male showrunners. And I understand
we're all nodding. It makes for great audio.
Oh yeah.
And I understand that they had I'm pretty sure they had a writer's room, which is very unusual in animation.
Yeah.
But more common in adult animation or animation that is created by people who traditionally work on camera. For a show that's about Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, two women and their friendship is the heart of the show. I just really, really hope that there were a lot of female writers. It's something I don't know. So it's not exactly a rant.
Right.
I'm not calling them out by any means. But for a show about two women, sometimes I feel like still the men get the comedy.
Mhm.
The male characters get a lot of attention. And I'm not saying that a show about women can't include men, but I just really hope the authenticity that rang through in Birds of Prey in terms of the way women talk to each other. I would love to see more of that in this show. And it can't just rest on Harley and Ivy.
Yeah.
I really hope there's more female characters in the ensemble.
Yep. Strong agree.
Who stick around for more than a couple episodes.
You know, it's authenticity, right? It's the authenticity that we were drawn to in Birds of Prey that is often lacking in the relationships of that we see in the animated world. And whether they're just not putting the time into it, or like you said, that's not the makeup of their writer's room, or there are other things at play with that people want to see. It's not there. I don't often believe I don't often understand why Ivy is so good to Harley, or
why do you love her so much?
Yeah, I want to scream at the television. Like, why are you doing this? Like,
did you really just bond in prison that well?
Right.
Like, give me more info.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's by the end of the first, she's completely given up her crusade to save the planet for fixing Harley. That seems really out of character for Poison. Like, why? Why are you here? And it's it's a big enough problem for me that it is a rant.
Yeah.
But I'll just end on I fucking hate Kite Man.
Oh, I love Kite Man.
I love Kite Man.
I hate Kite Man from the comics, and I already hated Kite Man, and but now I really hate him and hate how they're just using him. It's only funny to me because I know they're slowly moving like Harley and Ivy together. And so he's such, from the time they've introduced him, he's just a throwaway character, and he's purposefully bad in every way. And it's just, the humor is completely lost on me. I hate Kite Man. I hate everything about him. And it's like,
fascinating.
They're just using him as a foil for Harley and Ivy and whatever they're going to do with them down the road. Because they, spoilers, the showrunners have said they're going to eventually go in this direction. I don't know if it'll be season 2 or season 3 or how many seasons this is going to go for, but whatever that winds up looking like, he's only there for like situational comedy. That's not funny to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a soft spot for Kite Man. I really I love the poking at the classic machismo, the hitting on Ivy so much, to then opening up the insecurities, and then when he's really trying but he's really not good. I mean, he's like the Aquaman trope before Jason Momoa took over Aquaman. Like he's I can do stuff of this world,
right?
You know?
That's fair.
I I love when he gets the cater waiter job at the
Yeah.
Legion of Doom to make extra money because it's expensive taking Poison Ivy out.
Yep.
And I love him. I don't know. I was never familiar with him from the comics. To me, I thought he's always been a pretty obscure character. And so the fact that I think this show has done a really good job of highlighting characters that kind of dwindled in obscurity and giving them more agency and like a renewed interest in the character. And so, I mean, I'm so baffled why Poison Ivy is attracted to him. But I kind of get it. He's really sweet and he's really dopey. And he turned his apartment to say 69. And I think that's funny. I ship it. And I'm like, I'm worried for his heart. Ultimately, I'm really excited about Harley and Ivy getting together.
Sure.
But I am sad that it might be at the expense.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't see
Kite Man surviving that. I don't know. Maybe that's in the back of my mind. I don't see Kite Man surviving that eventual, shoe drop.
Maybe they'll break up nicely and neatly before anything else happens with anybody else.
That's the DC universe. I'm fresh out of rants.
Shall we rave?
Yeah, let's rave.
Rave for days.
I feel like we started off, and I feel responsible for starting us off on this wah, 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 wah note, because that's not actually the majority of how I feel about this show. I laughed out loud many, many times watching this.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down a quote that just made me giggle. And I think that this is amazing. Given the production time animation takes, you have to bear in mind, these episodes were written probably in 2018.
Right.
Earlier. And so for some of the topical references, there's so much topical humor in this show. For those references to last a year or more in the animation production pipeline is a true feat. Kudos to the writers. When Harley said, I forget, there was a character who was, maybe it was Ivy. They're like, "Are you pregnant?" She was like, "This is going to be so bad for your career, but so good for your Instagram." I friggin' died. Like all the nods to stuff. So like talking about The Martian and how it's a dated reference.
That's right.
That was just such a clever way to hide that it might be a dated reference, because this episode won't air until a year or two later. Like South Park, for example, I keep citing that show because I love South Park. I love how quick they are in terms of seeing what's going on this week and translating it into their episode. With more elegantly animated shows like Harley Quinn, you don't have that luxury where it's going to be at least 9 months until you get animation, if that done. And so I think they've done a really, really good job of balancing the humor. Yeah, that's my big rave. I love the writing in the show and like its topical references. And I think that is a strength too, to have showrunners. I cited it earlier as something that might be difficult to have showrunners who have a live action background now working on animation. But I think it's also great because it's a diverse viewpoint, bringing new insights to the genre that you don't really see in many other shows out there. So I think they bring that sensibility of humor to this show. And I really, really enjoy it. Strong agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really is. We'll talk a lot about Teen Titans Go and how that show grew on us, because it's like, oh, it's just so self-aware now, and it's like poking fun of this culture and everything. And this is the more adult baby hands. This is the more adult version of Teen Titans Go. Yeah. Like this is the next step for those of us who grew up on Teen Titans and went nuts over it. Then this is our version of Go. I laugh out loud at least a couple times per episode, because the comedy writing is there. The strong majority of the time.
A minor spoiler: the most recent episode to drop has a cold open of the the showrunners sitting in their basement just trolling, and it's so meta, it's so hyper aware, it's so smart. The writing is just so, goddamn good. It's, we almost don't deserve it. We don't deserve, like, when the writing is good, we almost don't deserve it on an animated show like this that is so hyper aware and so smart and so unafraid to pull back the veil on this whole genre, and just how absurd it is that, that we geek out in the way that we do, and laugh at the things that we laugh at that are amazing and horrific at the same time. It's so unlike any other adult animated show or animated show. Again, show me something new, I'm all in. I watched the Clerks series and loved it and laughed out loud. I watched the early years of Family Guy and laughed out loud. And this is so unlike either of those. That very first episode, very first scene, watched it. I was like laughing and horrified at the same time, and just, went and got Elise. I was
My fellow whites.
Holy shit. Like, that's how you started. Like, that's insane. And I just stopped and I went and got Elise. I was like, you have to watch this. You have to watch this. And that she connected with it in a real and visceral way is just proof positive of how good it is. She loves animation, but often does not connect to it in the way that I do, because she didn't grow up with it. But God, it's so unique and so special. And that a month between seasons. Thank you, DC Universe. Like, holy shit.
I was shocked when season 2 came out.
April 3rd, it just started.
Quickly.
Yeah. I hope that I cross my fingers that that's the turnaround time for the 2 to 3. 2 to 3. It is so good, and I want to know what happens.
I could.
Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Well, I just wanted to speak a little bit about like animation production. It's fascinating because, like, I feel like with Harley Quinn, my gut is that, similar to how Netflix will order from DreamWorks, for example, Voltron, they'd order 52 episodes. And so work would begin on those 52 episodes, and then they would be chopped up into seasons.
Yeah.
Even though there's only 2 big seasons in the production order.
Right.
Or like, and how things were labeled, And so it was always tricky because, well, for the actor, it's tricky because in theory, between seasons, you're able to negotiate for a little pay bump. But when Netflix is arbitrarily deciding these 7 episodes are a season,
right?
Then these 13 episodes are a season. It's like, well, in my contract, I only worked on season 3 or whatever, but that 3 doesn't mean anything in broadcast world. So my feeling is that for Harley Quinn, they probably ordered a certain number of episodes, got working on them, held on to the ones that were finished, and then released them at the optimal time they thought for DC Universe to have them. So there's probably a bunch of finished episodes. I wouldn't be surprised if they're done with the series. It's just finalizing. Not all of them are like probably final and picture locked, but I think that's probably why season 2 was able to come so quickly after season 1. Again, I'm using air quotes because they probably did all 26 episodes and had them ready to go. That's what they did with Young Justice. Like, we had final episodes for the first half of that season, like, done for a long time before the release date was announced on DC Universe. So yeah, who knows? Like, with animation pipelines, like, I'm hoping that would be great if the seasons come out boom, 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 boom. But it's just a bit of a wild card.
Yeah, now that you say that, I think they did originally order 34 episodes.
Of Harley Quinn?
Yeah.
Cool.
And so season 1 was 13, and I think this is 13. So that was probably like 1 whole season.
Yeah.
Chopped in 2.
Yeah.
Because Young Justice did that too, right? There was like 10 episodes up front and then 10 episodes in the back, and like a month or 2 in between.
26 episode order. So it was 13 and 13.
Yeah. Okay, 13. Yeah. Makes sense. Very cool. Other raves for Harley Quinn?
Well, I'll do my rave that has a backside to it of a rant.
Oh.
Ooh.
Okay.
Do we allow that?
Yeah, we allow that.
Okay.
We make the rules. This is the Wild West of the podcasting world. It's one of my favorite depictions of the villains of the Batman universe because they are so realistic. Like, you believe there's a real person behind every single villain.
Yes.
And you could probably assign each villain to someone you actually know in real life, right? And the flip of that is I wish they would do that with the heroes, because the heroes feel
They're
so
so two-dimensional.
and so distant.
Wah, wah.
And
Yeah.
there are points where you're like, how are the heroes not wiping the floor with all of the villains
Right.
all the time? Because these are just like normal Joe Schmoes, basically. But what makes it a rave in the villain world is that
you can't just put a hit out on someone.
yeah, they're having real world problems.
Credit card guy.
I watched that one today, actually, in preparation. I love Bane
Fucking
in the
love
series.
Bane. Oh my god. Why do I not have a chair like the rest of you?
That's
you
a
look-
pretty good
Oh, thank
Bane.
It is very good, Bane. Been working on it.
Kudos.
Thank you.
But it's just the fact that like it's like the whole Legion of Doom is so bureaucratic, and it's just like you could really believe that it's a real institution. The goons are hired, and it's just a side gig.
The henchman side gig. Like
It's just such
Yeah.
real world villainry. And then
Totally.
and they also do horrible things.
Yes.
Like horrible things, which makes them even more horrible because they're not like mustache twirling
right.
cartoon characters. They are real people doing
Yeah,
horrible,
they're the
horrible stuff.
antithesis of the Adam West era, like villains.
Oh, yeah.
Of like someone's going to wind up in a wood chipper and it's going to be horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love too, like what this kind of has in common with Birds of Prey is that, hey, where's the line? Where do we draw the line? And I feel like this animated series world, the line is way more far than in the live action world, where she's like begging to kill the 12-year-old
Right.
Damian Robin. Like that was amazing. And I think, I completely agree. The heroes don't feel very fleshed out. They also feel like they're a little bit of a menace. Like they are essentially the
They're
villains
the real
of the
villains.
series.
Yeah.
And so I think in a way that sorry, hang on. She did not like that.
No.
I think that in the way that Birds of Prey was a Harley Quinn movie without the Joker, and Joker was a movie without Batman, this animated series is a Legion of Doom series without the Justice League.
Interesting.
So I don't know that I hope that they flesh out the heroes more. I kind of like Superman and Lois Lane just talking about going for sushi and just banal stuff like that. Like it's a way I've never seen the DC heroes before. So that to me is really interesting.
I love that.
And I do like Batman and Jim Gordon's.
Oh God, I fucking
Yes.
love Dietrich Bader and Chris Maloney as Batman and
So
Gordon.
good. Dietrich Bader is the nicest man on the planet, but also so talented. I love
so
him
glad
in
to hear
everything.
that.
He's the best. You guys, he's been posting from his Twitter like pictures of his garden.
Oh,
And like he did this before
Thank God.
quarantine. Like he's just such a nice man. I have worked with him on several shows, but never met him until just earlier this year at the BoJack Horseman series finale party. And he was so nice.
that's awesome.
Like the person he is on social media is the person he is in real life.
Yes.
So I love his Batman. Oh my God. So good. So funny.
I hated his Batman in Brave and the Bold. And I love his Batman in this. This is the perfect Batman for this world.
His Brave and the Bold Batman grew on me over time.
Yes,
I mean, I had a reaction at the beginning, but by the end, I was
with him at
all
the
in.
end. Yeah. But it was so great when he opened his mouth for the first time, because I didn't know initially who was going to voice Batman, and then this Jim Gordon, it's just like, oh my God, this is the relationship Batman and Gordon would have in the real world. Like,
yeah.
what how else would you allow this vigilante to like do what he does in your city? That's the only way to explain it.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh God. The cast. God damn, Ron Funches, King Shark.
So good.
Oh my God. And I love that King Shark is usually just like an Incredible Hulk character. I love that he's a computer genius. I love that they play into that
Totally.
side. And then out of nowhere, he'll just bite someone in half.
Yeah, because you're like, oh yeah, he is a shark.
I forgot he's a shark. And Alan Tudyk's Clayface, like, oh my God.
So funny.
And I didn't have that realization that I knew he was Joker. I did not know he was Clayface until I forgot how it dawned on me, and then I looked it up. That I love that he's Clayface. Jason Alexander Cyborgman.
Oh, really great.
Yeah.
Oh my
God, I love Jason Alexander.
Dude, did you ever watch Duckman? Did either of you ever watch Duckman?
I did. I used to watch Duckman.
I did not.
Oh my goodness. And I like his voice is so recognizable that but I also forget that it's him. And like there's something about the way he just like falls into the absurdity of that character when he starts talking about like CIA Black Ops and Nam. I'm there. I love it. And and this like I love that the character, because they could have brought anyone from the Harley universe into the show. I love that it's this character.
Totally.
Like the fucking cooped out landlord. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like if that's the character you're gonna salvage from the comics. Fantastic. And I'm blanking on his name. Frank the
plant.
The plant. I can't
Yes.
I know it's wrong. I keep wanting to say Tiny Ron Lister, and I know that's not right.
JB Smoove.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. JB Smoove.
Yeah.
Yep. And he's I love that he's the
I love Frank the plant.
I love Frank.
He's the voice of responsibility. Oh my God. When at the end of that episode where Harley goes home and she wakes up in the car and Frank's drive, it's like oh, she must be like drugged out of her. Oh no, this is real and this is perfect. And
I love in the pilot when we first meet Frank and he spits out the boy and then he spits out the boy's parents. Like, I wouldn't worry about that.
Oh my God.
Like, amazing. I also like I love the dynamic between Lake Bell and Kaylee Cuoco as Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, respectively, because Harley is all up here and always high energy, and Lake Bell like doesn't give a shit. She's like
about
down
anything.
here.
Yeah.
She's the grounding force. Oh, which makes sense because Poison Ivy loves plants, ground, earth.
There you go.
And they're like these two elements that are trying to balance each other out.
And failing miserably.
Yeah, as of right now, they're not together. But those actors are doing such an amazing job. Lake Bell's comedy is so funny and so subtle. Like, I really love the performance she's giving, and then what the storyboard artists and animators are doing to translate that into like there's these moments of stillness in the show, which is really, I think, challenging to pull off in comedy, and then I think even more challenging to pull off in animated comedy because it's so many different people working on the humor, and I think the show executes them really brilliantly in when they let a moment of silence like sit in, where they focus on a character's face or something.
Yeah.
Like there's just been a couple technical moments where I'm like, wow, that was really, really well done, and a good team effort by everybody involved to get the joke, to understand the humor, to know what the scene needs artistically, and based on the voice performances.
Visual jokes in cartoons, you don't often get that in a way that's connected to the actual joke that's being told.
Yeah, and especially not necessarily one that's organic with the joke the actor is setting up, or the writer has set up, and then the actor's executing. To then go to that third point of the visual element of it, like it's really awesome when those elements work together so beautifully. But yeah, I love Poison Ivy. She's so cool and she's so hot. I think on my notes, the second thing I wrote was Poison Ivy hot. I am so into Poison Ivy and Harley's relationship. I'm really intrigued to see where it'll go.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like Harley has a lot of work to do on herself.
Just a little.
Fun fact, there was a special voice director who was brought in to direct Kaylee Cuoco specifically. Charlie Adler is a prolific voice director here, and he is...
Bless you.
Excuse me. Oh my gosh, allergies. Charlie Adler is a prolific voice director here in LA, and voice actor in his own right. He was in Tiny Toons, and he is amazing. How I would describe his style of directing is like he's this batshit insane maestro, and he will say whatever it takes and do whatever it takes to get the thing out of you. I took a class with him a few years ago, and I'm forever grateful to him, because one of the pieces we worked on in his class was the audition that got me onto She-Ra, where I play the character Mara. It was the audition for Mara that he coached me on,
very cool.
and that ultimately got it. And one of his pieces of direction was like, I'm going to paraphrase, but it was like, you're just a girl trying to reach one other girl. Go. And when I went into this session to record, the voice director was like, your audition really stood out because it was just one person talking to another person. And I'm like, oh, Charlie Adler, you're worth every penny. So Charlie Adler, he was brought in specifically to voice direct Kaylee Cuoco to help her get to where she needed to go.
Wow.
To do all the heights and lows of Harley Quinn. And so when I watch her performance, I'm not just thinking of Kaylee's work, I'm thinking of Charlie's work. And what fun, maniacal energy that must have been to witness in the booth.
Yeah, that's
those two personalities together.
And that's so interesting. You're right, because Kaylee's Harley is up here, and always like, even when she's down here, she's still up here, and always like, it's basically her yelling, not yelling. And that's hard to like then bring it to a place of subtlety. And that's even when she is down or trying to be small, she is still so big, because that's the version of the character they've set on. And to find those nuances while at the same time being that high energy and that big and that loud, that is really special. I didn't think about that. It's I love to hear stories like that. Tiny Toon Adventures, God, I loved that show. That was special. Anyway, sorry, I went somewhere else. I went somewhere there for a minute.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
I like it. We went there with you.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad to take you on that journey. Any other raves for the Harley Quinn series?
We've kind of talked about mine like organically and just talking about it. Just like geeking out over it.
It's both of. I love that we did this double feature, because they are both, the movie and the series are just, they're so fun. And it's good. It's just a good time.
Wait, who recommended doing it as a double feature?
Yeah, I don't know that person, but it was the right decision, and it definitely balanced it out, because I think if we had just done the series, I would have had more to rant about. On its own. The series on its own, it misses in big ways for me sometimes, but it's so unique and so special, and then to get like this completely other Harley Quinn, is that they can both exist in the same space. And while there is still like, we're using this character in the movie, you can't have them for TV. That seems to have gotten better, like just in the last couple of years, I think in part due to the success of the Arrowverse, where that show is really hamstrung by not being able to access certain characters.
I can think of, sorry to interrupt, but like, I feel like when your access is limited, you have to be creative. And I feel like that happened in the MCU.
Yes.
If they're not allowed to use the X-Men, who everybody loves, gosh, how do you, I think they benefited from it, because they had to really work to define these Avengers and bring them together. And so now, like, I think that the DC, the Arrowverse profited similarly when it's like, you're not allowed to use these big guys, but now you're elevating these arguably more interesting, newer little guys up to a whole new level.
Yeah. No, that's a excellent point. I didn't think of it in that way. That's very true.
The more you're limited, the freer you become. I remember an art teacher told me that in college. And I was like, yeah, totally. Yeah, like put limits on myself and then I can expand into them. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things I say a lot when I'm Egyptologing is you got to know the rules first so that you can break them.
There it is.
That is, yes. Wait, are you an Egyptologist?
Yes.
Sketches
an Egyptologist.
Sketches an Egyptologist.
All right, that's an offline conversation.
I do have one big question for the Harley Quinn animated series.
Cool.
Just one, because it is an ongoing series. So I'm sure things will be answered. But one that I have to know is Gus okay?
Is Gus okay? Probably
Yeah.
not.
The scarecrow henchman who befriended Poison Ivy.
Oh, who loved the pretzel
Yeah.
dog.
He loved the pretzel dog. He just took it to buy art supplies for his kindergarten class.
Yep.
I need Gus to be okay.
Yes.
I'm not optimistic.
Listen, before I wrote down this question, I went through every Gus scene to make sure he didn't die, and he does not have an on-screen death anywhere.
I know,
so there's
but
hope.
mild spoilers, Gotham City's not doing so great at the end of the series.
I have finished season 1, and it's a whole different world.
It's a whole different. It's a whole new world, and not a carpet ride and genies and weddings kind of way. So I don't think there's a happy ending there for you, Sketch.
It's like what was his name? Paul in the Deadpool movie. Right? Wasn't it Paul?
Honey Bear.
And at the end, Deadpool saved him.
Original Deadpool. Yes.
Yeah.
Paul. Yep.
Yeah.
The henchman. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He just showed up for the audition. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
The henchman edition. Yeah, you got it. All right. Well, hopefully we'll find out about Gus.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for Gus.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
It's kind of ranty, but not really. I just have this one question. Will Harley stand on her own two legs? Because Connor and Palmiotti, they gave her such a journey in the comics, and the series has pulled heavily from the comic material, and it's hard for me to keep seeing. And now that you've said like the sitcom way, Zehra, it's hard for me to see her keep like growing back to square one over and over. And it's I don't know if they're ever going to let her grow in the way that the movie let her grow, because I think that is the trope of this show. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I mean, you've gotten further than both of us.
I'm 2 episodes into it's season 2.
Oh, okay. So not much further.
I don't know if there's an answer to that, but it's
a true big question.
It's almost a rant for me, but I'll leave it as a big question.
I wonder and prophesize that if there is a change in her character in terms of her gaining more independence, it's perhaps ironically going to come with the deepening of her relationship with Ivy. Not that I'm saying she's going to become dependent on Ivy, like
right.
she's switching one master for another.
Yep.
But I think that whatever that dynamic continues to be, that's always the thing that's prompted her to really reflect, and grow and fixate on. And so I think as that becomes more developed, so too will Harley's ability to be independent. And that's my guess. That's my hope and my guess.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Because
I'd also like to see her psychology come out more, like it did in Birds of Prey.
Yeah,
and when it came out in the car, the rear view mirror,
because they've really leaned into her as a gymnast.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Can I just say, I forgot to say this in my rants. My raves. I had to rewind it and watch it a couple times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing when in that episode where they introduced her family, they did the theme song, and they talk about missing brother most of all, and they cut to the urn. I was like, what?
Right?
Like, that was so morbidly delightful. Like, I was not expecting it, and I loved the show for going there and doing that. And then when Barry, may he rest in peace. But it was so delightful. For like big questions, I want to know if bats fucks bats.
It's fair.
I think so. I mean, did you guys watch through Birds of Prey all the way to the end of the credits?
Yeah.
Yes, but it cut off.
It does cut off, but
it's Batman fucks
we're
bats.
to assume that's what
she was going to say.
she was going to say, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Because I
yeah.
remember walking out of the theater with my friend who I saw it with, and I was like, all right, just to explain that,
Right.
Batman fucks bats.
Batman fucks
and that's what
bats.
she was going to say. And I was like, wow, I wonder who's overhearing this conversation.
It's a question I never considered until Harley Quinn, the series. So, like, is this a thing in the DC universe otherwise about Batman having a bat fetish?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't read everything, but certainly I've read my share of like Batman comics and Harley comics.
And you'd think that would stand out.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing, but I love that.
I mean, would he Richard Gere it? Because I don't think you can physically insert
I don't know
a human thing into a bat.
Is this the part of the show where we really break this down now and just...
Yes. Yes. Because we are that podcast. Getting to the bottom of it.
No pun intended.
Hey-o!
Intended. Yeah, and I just have one last big question. Are they going to wait until the end of the series to put Harley and Ivy together? Is that going to be the conclusion? Because
I hope.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
It just feels like writers have gone there. I mean, in the Injustice universe, they've come right out and said like they're like there's some legality to their relationship, that they are legally married in the Injustice universe.
Harley and
Ivy, yeah, that's like
Really?
an alternate
Wow.
video game universe in the ongoing comic of that universe. Like they're legally married.
Hot.
Yeah, so it's like I love when comics like go there, but it seems like DC and maybe their corporate overlords have never really let them explore that, and then gets walked back. So I mean, I want to see that relationship play out, because how does someone who is psychotic have a cohabitual relationship with someone who is not
A
psychotic?
goddess.
Yes. But who is not psychotic and does terrible things, but there's this, I can't remember what episode it is, but it's like yes, I'm a villain. No, I'm trying to save the planet. I'm not a villain. Like, you're all the villain. I'm not the villain. Ivy is very much aware of what she's doing and her methods, and is not remorseful in a way that Harley is not always aware of what she's doing or the ramifications of what she's doing. I want to see that explored.
Yeah, I really want to see them together. I don't want it to be just at the end, like when you think of like Korra, the end of that, they finally put the two characters together. But you want to see the relationship, because there's so much character growth in a relationship.
Yes.
It's not all about just getting to the relationship.
Exactly.
And I don't know. That's a big problem I have in a lot of properties, that like the end all be all is cementing the relationship, and nothing about the hard work that goes into maintaining a relationship,
right? Especially
with two dynamic characters like this show.
Yes,
so that would be a huge miss if they save it.
I feel like I'm so afraid that it's just going to wind up being fan service.
I feel like the show, only season 1, I haven't felt overly fan serviced in this.
Well, fan service in the sense of just like for the Harley Ivy shippers. Like I wanted to explore the dynamics of those characters.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and I think from what I've seen in season 1, I feel like we're laying enough of a foundation that I feel pretty good that we can move forward with it.
Okay, I like that answer.
I 100% agree. Sorry, I'm being laughed at because I went off mic to sneeze and blow my nose.
I'm happy to edit, Zehra. It's okay.
Thank God.
I appreciate that, but I'm happy to do a little editing.
I 100% agree with what you just said, because I feel like, especially as children, not that this show is for children, but as children, and continuing throughout. Media primes us to get to the relationship. Will they or won't they?
Right.
They will. And then it's like, oh, you think, and then you can't help but think in your life, oh, that's, you're not shown stories and modeling of how relationships actually work and the work that goes into real relationships. You're like, oh, all you have to do is fight until you say, I love you. And then that's it. Then it's happily ever after.
Yep.
So and that's especially the case with, LGBTQ relationships depiction in media. Queer relationships are not given the same wealth of fleshing out that straight relationships are given. So I think it'd be hugely smart and hugely necessary for this show to really give the relationship between Poison Ivy and Harley a real look and flesh it out. And that's, again, I echo my concerns. Like, I hope they have women in the writer's room. I hope they have queer women in the writer's room.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing a queer relationship between two women, you really need to get it right. You really need to get it right. And I hope they have, I know Warner Brothers is really good, especially over the last few years, in reaching out to consultants with GLAAD, consultants from different ethnic and minority groups on, and having sensitivity readers on their scripts. I really, really hope this show similarly, if they're going in that direction, one, I hope they do go in that direction. And two, if they do go in that direction, I hope they bring in appropriate eyeballs and sensibilities on it. Because that would be something that I think would be really awesome and unique. And I'm so glad DC is going in the direction of adult animation. And I'm so glad it's going in the direction of telling LGBTQ stories. And yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I like the way you said it so much better, Zehra.
Oh, thanks. I don't know what I said. I just talk.
Play back the tape. I think we unpacked Harley pretty darn well
I
today.
think we did. And I'm so glad I got to have this conversation with both of you today.
Oh my gosh, how much fun. Thank you so much for thinking of me to talk about these shows and the movie.
Well, you are our resident queen of all things DC media. And so thank you so much for making time and for geeking out with us, Zehra.
Of any time.
Okay, then.
We'll hold you to that.
We will hold you to that. That brings us to, I think, sketch. Shades and sketch recommendations.
It's hard to do it remotely.
Over remote.
COVID. Thanks, COVID.
That sounded great.
Thank you. I have a rec.
What's your rec, Sketch?
A rec which is very timely for the world that we're living in right now. I like to board game.
Because your last recommendation was a road trip. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I still think it's going to be very important for people to get out on the road and support local businesses.
Too soon, Sketch.
Start your car every week at least.
Yes.
Drive it around for 20 minutes. Keep the battery alive.
Check under the hood and your tires first.
Yes.
Squirrels and critters like to take up residency in those warm, safe spots.
Also a great time to start routing a road trip. You can always start thinking about it.
That's fair. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Sketch. Your recommendation.
So I like to board game. I like to board game with a group of friends. And that is kind of on hiatus right now for obvious reasons. So what we have kind of resorted to is a game on our computer or on our individual computers called Tabletop Simulator. If you've ever heard of it, it is a virtual room basically with all of the kind of the tools in it to play a board game. And people have like modded it out and made like packs. So like, oh, you like Pandemic? You can play Pandemic in this if you get it. You can play the, and so you are you're virtually putting out a board game, and you're virtually all sitting around a table, and like it doesn't play the game for you. You pick up the die, you roll the die, you move your character, your token 7 places. So listen, is it perfect? Does it perfectly capture the fun of a board game night? No, but it is miles better than not board gaming at all.
Do I need like VR equipment or anything for this?
You can do it in VR, but it's just, I don't do it in VR. Just do it right on my computer. It's just it's called Tabletop Simulator. And there are literally thousands of like mods that people have made for it to play different board games in it.
Oh, sign me up for that. I've been craving some board games.
Yeah. So it's
That's
just, it's a
amazing.
really good way to scratch that itch. right now.
Can you do Settlers of
Oh,
Catan? on it?
absolutely. And like,
I'd be all
and
about
like
that.
all the
My Catan
variations.
buddies.
Oh, wow.
Sweet.
And the cool thing is, from what I understand, you buy
That's
Tabletop
amazing.
Simulator, the game itself, but the games that people have kind of made and put into it, those you just sign up for and they get added to your library. So you're really only paying for the simulator itself.
Oh,
It's pretty amazing.
That's dope.
I know what I'm doing at the end of this podcast.
Yeah, seriously.
Tabletop Simulator.
That's a great recommendation, Sketch.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Zehra, do you have a recommendation you'd like to leave us?
Piggybacking off that, I've also been playing a lot of games on my computer in this time. And something a friend of mine turned me on to was the website RustyLake.com. And it's a series of Flash escape room games. So if you like escape rooms, now the thing that I love about these games is the sense of morbidity. It's kind of like a horror, elements of comedy, but it's scary without being too scary. It's just the right amount of creepiness that, like, the first time I was playing the game, it was like 2 a.m. one night and all the lights were off my house. And I was like, this is a lot, even for me, who's a big horror fan. Like, my nerves are real frazzled. This is real spooky. It was so much fun. They have about, I think, 12 games. Some of their games are premium, and you can get them on Steam. Right now, they're really cheap, like 99 cents.
Wow.
And it's just a really satisfying, it sucks you into the lore of the world. And all the meantime, you're solving these escape room puzzles. Highly recommend it. RustyLake.com. Check it out.
I'm definitely checking that out tonight.
And is that multiplayer? Do you play with your
single player?
Can you play
just
with other people in the room with you, or is it just a one person experience?
I would say it's a one person experience. Okay. But if you're like stuck on a puzzle and want another set of eyeballs on it, you could totally play with your partner.
That's cool.
I don't see why not. Yeah.
I like Sketch, I know you love a good escape room.
I love escape rooms. And we had such a good track record. We were at 100% success rate. And then the last two we did before the world went crazy failed. It's hard to leave on two losses.
Oh,
yeah.
Rough.
You're just raring to get back in the game.
I'm raring to go avenge these losses.
You can hone your skills at Rusty Lake.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have an entirely different recommendation. I love both of yours, but I as you know, Sketch and Zehra, I have left the world of DC Comics over some of the decisions that they've made as of late, and I'm only reading independent comics. However, they have made a decision that beckons to me, and I have only read the first issue, or a teaser of the first issue. Batman: The Adventures Continue, which is a continuation of the BTAS universe, and it takes place between Batman the Animated Series and Gotham Knights.
Wow.
So there was an season 4 of the animated series was an animation style change.
Mm-hmm.
And this tells the story between Dick Grayson leaving and coming back as Nightwing. There are stories that are going to take place in there, and it's drawn in the style of Batman the Animated Series. I'm on my iPad, so I can't do a screen share, so I'm just going to hold the cover of the first issue up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and
that looks cool.
One of the things that the Sketch you and I talked about when we did Batman and Harley Quinn was it was so awesome to see like that character of Gotham City with the red night sky in the background again. And I'm just, I've read the first, I think 5 pages, and I'm all in.
Who's the author on that?
It's I think it's a bunch
different folks.
I think it's kind of like not quite an anthology, but I know Dinny and Tim are involved. I don't know if they're writing the whole thing. Yeah, okay, so it's Paul Dini and Alan Burnett. And it's going to be illustrated by Ty Templeton. So it is the writers and producers of the animated series.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it's in the vein of, everything old is new again. I'm really excited for this. And I actually did love the Batman Adventures comics, which was the comic wing of the animated series. I had so many of them, and I don't know what happened to them. Like, I have so many of my childhood comics, it seems, except for those. I must have let someone borrow them at some point. So I'm back in a small way to the comics wing of DC Comics.
Dipping your toe back in.
Yeah, and I feel this is a safe place to dip my toe back in.
There you go.
Because the rest of DC Comics doesn't feel all that safe in the last couple of years.
Interesting.
They've just done a lot of they've just rebooted the universe. I would say 4 times in the last 10 years, and that's a little much.
It's a lot to ask of anyone to follow along. Yeah.
And I'm a different point in my life to go through that every so often.
You're old. That's what you're trying to say.
I mean, look at all these beautiful grays. And this is my COVID beard. I decided I'm not shaving until this is over.
It's real nice.
Thank you.
It looks intentional. It doesn't look like a quarantine thing.
Thank you. We'll see what happens. It started out, it was more like a Green Arrow kind of Robin Hood thing, and then the rest just filled in. I was like, nah, I'm done. This is difficult to maintain. And so we'll see what happens. But I might need one of those like old timey cups that has the thing for the mustache so it doesn't get in your suit.
Yeah. Do. I cut my boyfriend's hair for the first time in this quarantine, and it turned out okay. Just the back is kind of a disaster, but I think I did a pretty good job on the rest of it. Only I took off his sideburns, so now they're just
that's okay.
Sides.
Yeah, there you go. This is an Elise Arsenault and I collaboration. She did the back.
Nice.
I did the sides and the top, and she did the back.
Very cool.
It's mostly
very nice.
It's mostly not awful.
Sketch, your hair is looking great.
Thank you. It's just long. That's all it is. It's just long.
Nice.
It's the man who stockpiles his hair gel.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's shellacked back.
Out of toilet paper, but plenty of hair gel.
I cannot stand it in my face, so it's just going to keep going back and back and back.
It's the Jim Carrey Robotnik look.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Guys, I'm going to put you on the spot. Anything you want to take with you from this adventure?
Well, I'm going to take
other than this overwhelming sense of joy.
I'll take this this crossbow. It's not a fucking bow and arrow. I'm not 12.
Well played.
Along those lines, you know what? I am going to take all of Black Canary's clothes. I'm going to take those gold pants. I'm going to take that nice blue blazer. And I'm going to take Huntress's hand.
Oh,
okay. Hey, there you go. Good on you. You do like a good blazer.
I really do. They're just, what can I say? They're timeless elegance.
Nice. And I'm sure she appreciates the solidarity.
Totes. Dispatch.
Did you take it, Haley?
I am going to take this egg sandwich.
I was thinking of the egg sandwich, but then I was thinking, well, Shade's definitely going to take the egg sandwich.
I am taking the egg sandwich. I really want to, it's the stray Armenian arm hands that really make it.
Yep. Yep, just a dash of hot sauce.
Just a dash.
And the expired cheese.
6-month-old cheese.
So good.
I am lactose intolerant. This is gonna be an adventure.
Well, the lactose expired, so you're good now. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's inactive.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Though it's American cheese, so there was never any
lactose in it anyway. Right.
Mostly wax.
It's just congealed oil.
Yep.
That's it. Yum. Zehra Fazal, thank you so much for making time with us today. Is there anything you would like to plug before we end?
The final season of She-Ra drops on Netflix on May 15th.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Will we be seeing more of Mara?
I don't know. Question mark.
Okay.
Possibly. But I'm excited to see how everything all ends because besides being in the show, I've become quite a fan of the show as well. It's really well written, and I'm excited to see the end of it. What else? I have some other DC things cooking that I can't talk about, so I'm just going to skip that.
Okay. Tantalizing.
Just anticipation right there.
Yeah.
There's no release dates for anything at this point.
Yeah,
and coronavirus is making things sort of like, I don't know what's going on. What else? Do I have something that's coming? Oh, you can catch me also that week of May 15th. It might actually be on the 15th. The series finale of How to Get Away with Murder. Blink and you'll miss me, but my reporter character from past seasons is back to ask the hard questions.
Nice.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So that'll be fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. It's always a joy to geek out with you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and for giving me this awesome excuse to watch Harley Quinn content.
Awesome.
While I'm at home.
It's the perfect time.
And Zehra, maybe if you can hang around for just a minute or two, maybe we can head over to the Patreon and ask you the real tough questions for our longtime patrons.
Yeah, sure thing.
So if you want to hear more of our conversation with this dynamic powerhouse of a talent, you can join us at patreon.com/shadesandsketch. And
guys, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
If you'd like to take a more active role in supporting Geeking Out, visit us at patreon.com/shadesansketch.
Our website is shows.acast.com/geekingout.
You can email the show at gowithshadesandsketch@gmail.com or contact us through Facebook or Twitter.
Geeking Out is a production of Tree Cave Creative, LLC. All rights reserved, 2020.